Hey everybody, good morning. It's what is it, 20th of November? It's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, so I hope you'll have a good, happy Thanksgiving when the day comes. I want to touch base with you all about a few things. It's not quite 8 o'clock in the morning here, and you can probably see by my surroundings I'm in my home because of a work situation. I'm going to be going a little bit later today and working, closing through the night, and we'll be doing that for a little bit anyway. And the advantage to that is I got to sleep in instead of getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and get to have a normal wake up to some degree, and allow me to do this. I enjoy um, sharing these videos with you, not because of me, because of the feedback that you guys give me on an almost daily basis. Not everybody, but somebody reaches out, or several people reach out, and whatever topic I'm talking about seems to hit home with them and resonate with them. So um, there were a few topics I want to talk about today uh, that triggered me. A lot of times, I just like on the journey, I observe things and develop opinions or thoughts based upon things I observe or see. If you're not doing that, it's difficult to share that. So sometimes I fill up space giving you updates on me or the book or the family or the dogs. Or speaking of dogs, there's two dogs laying down, one behind the white ottoman, the other one calling the couch hers. Um, anyway, but two things that jumped out at me today. Uh, let's see which one I want to talk about first. Well, let's start with last night. Hang tight with me through this. This first one's going to involve sports, but it's not sports per se. It's sports in life. I remember one time I went to go see some neighbors way back many days, and remember the Titans came out, and there was a group of neighbors that were all real tight. And I said, I saw the movie. I said, you guys got to see it. And I remember Wendell looking at me and said, isn't it a football movie? I said, no, it's a life movie with football as the backdrop. And I kind of think a lot of times we get caught up with not seeing the story of a movie and life and getting caught in what's right in front of us. For example, I've thought many times about Rocky, and everybody thinks Rocky is a sports movie, and certainly it is, but it's also a love story. And I think when you understand that, um, it's a love story with sports as the backdrop, and more than that too, of course, overcoming odds and challenges. Well, last night, if you're a football fan, was one of the most amazing Monday Night Football games ever. I think the final score was 54 to 51. Um, I shot myself in the foot in my fantasy league by not starting a couple of players, but that's neither here nor there. It went very late. I didn't see the end of it because I didn't. Um, but it wasn't the football game that was so amazing, although it was. That is what I wanted to talk about. Um, some of you listening to me are younger and may not have been around at this point in time. Some of you that have been around, the same way I wasn't around for Kennedy's assassination, everybody knows where they were at that time. 9/11 rang true for me last night because the game was played in Los Angeles. And, if you're following the news at all, in Los Angeles in the last month or so, a couple of things very tragic have happened. The first one was some deranged person went into a country bar, dance club, and decided to shoot up the place. And I think we lost 12 of our citizens. Sorry, a little itch. We lost 12 of our citizens to just needless. You know, I don't want to say. I can say a lot of foul words, but mental incapacity, anger, venom, spite, whatever you want to say. And then not long after that, there were two raging wildfires. One up north in California, one in Southern California. And I think the death toll is somewhere around 77 people and citizens of our country now. A lot of lost homes and possessions and valuables, which pales in comparison to the loss of human life, of course. But anyway, these are tragedies. And the Los Angeles football game last night, they recognized, they lit a torch in memory of the 12 people at the Borderline Bar that lost their lives. But when you get past that, which was a tremendous tribute, when you get past all of that, the game started. And when the game kicked in, for whatever reason, sports helps bring back normalcy to our world. You see it if you've watched the movie We Are Marshall, when a team plane crashed, killing nearly every player and coach on the team, short of a handful. They thought they would never get the program back and were devastated. But because of a few people's willingness, they returned to the football program and they returned to normalcy. You hear when tragically a young person dies on a sports team and they go out and they play, and people say, how can they do that? Well, I think sports throughout the years has brought on some degree of normalcy for people, and I don't think enough people realize that. You see people with egos or financial problems we couldn't even comprehend or understand. You see people with, owners fighting with players and billionaires fighting with millionaires, and it's hard. And it's hard to see that. But when you reduce it down, the game itself, just the game, forget about the players and the personalities, just the game itself brings back normalcy to the world. And to those people in California last night, for 4 hours, they didn't have to hear about wildfires, and they didn't have to hear about shooters, and they didn't have to hear about any of that stuff. And probably on their way into work today, when they finally go in, they're going to talk with their friends and family about the game, and it's going to continue to, as opposed to sitting around a water cooler at work talking about, prosecuting and death and fires, they're going to talk about something else. And for those of you that lived through 9/11, and remember where you were, one of the telling points about 9/11 was, football games the next weekend, and of course it was winding down towards the end of the baseball season. And I'm not sure if it was ESPN and 30 for 30, but I think there's a bunch of things out there on that note. And I even think if you look at some of just the documentaries specifically to 9/11, it talks about how baseball brought back, I believe that year was the Yankees-Mets World Series. So here you are in New York where this took place, or the bulk of it took place, and how sports brought the city. It didn't cause it to forget 9/11. It didn't, but it just kind of united some folks and gave them a break to let them know that for them life is going to go on. And like I said, for that reason, I think sports is one of the most amazing things you could ever be part of. I don't know many other things that brings people, for the most part, together. Clearly, there's disagreements on favorite teams, and sometimes it gets violent and stupid. But for the most part, it's a pretty amazing thing, and I can't think of much else short of tragedy itself that brings people together like that. Like I said, on 9/11, we weren't white Americans or black Americans or Asian Americans or Hispanic Americans. We weren't Republicans or Democrats. We were Americans. And last night, those people of LA watching that tribute, they were, how do you say, Los Angeles. They weren't divisive. They were united in their sorrow. So the game brought them together. The second thing I want to talk about, which was pretty neat, just happened this morning. So I got up and took care of the dogs, and I'm a Dr. Phil fan. I put Dr. Phil on in the background, and this was a story I'd never seen before, which is rare. Not that I haven't seen it, I haven't seen an episode of Dr. Phil. I'm kind of a groupie. But it was a woman who hadn't seen her children for 45 years. Now think about that for a minute. And the story basically went, I didn't watch, I was hustling and bustling, but I watched some of it. She had, in 1969, gotten a divorce, which again was a little bit less common than it is now. And she had dropped her kids off at her husband's for Thanksgiving. She was a nurse, and he was supposed to drop the kids back off at her mom's house, or her parents' house, at 7:30 that night. She never saw her kids again, and she never stopped looking. And that got me thinking a lot of things. I mean, you guys, we all know how we are with our children. I couldn't imagine, just one day saying goodbye and not seeing the kids again. And it's one thing, and not that it's any easier if it's a tragedy, but at least you're getting some closure. Here, you just never know. So this poor woman, I don't know what went through her mind for all those years and how you deal with it, but eventually she had to move on with her life. She had no help. Nobody knew anything. This was before the days of cell phones and technology. I don't even think she knew her kids' social security numbers. I think her husband, being a little bit controlling, had controlled a lot of that, but I might be wrong on that last point. But anyway, Dr. Phil and his locator, Troy, found these folks, and She was reunited with those kids, and so many times I've seen on that show similar stories, but it's never. There's animosity sometimes between the kids because they've been told a whole different bill of goods their whole life. They were told, mom or dad did this to you, mom or dad did that to you, and made them out to be evil, or they were told they passed away. You never know what reaction you get when the kids come out. And I think she had 3 children. The oldest one wanted to meet her but wasn't comfortable doing it in the spotlight. And the other 2 came out and met her. But what I thought was so fascinating as it applies to the Point in the Thumb and the Point in the Thumb journey was, came out, of course they hugged and embraced and shed some tears, as would be expected, but the mom just started to ask questions, to get to know the kids. But what I thought was so special about what she did was that it's real easy in that point to want to try to justify, I was always looking for you, I always loved you, but, he did this, your father did that, pointing the finger. At no point did that ever come out of her mouth. It was just really, I thought, pretty special the way she did that, and it was just, she was in the moment in the right manner. She was seeing the kids and wanting to learn about them. She'd missed them. It wasn't about her. She didn't play victim. I missed you. I can't believe I lost you guys all these years. That may come out. That may have been what she's feeling. But at no point was it said to the kids. And it only was a 30-minute portion of that little interaction, but I thought it was special. Because in the moment, that's really what it was about. And I think sometimes we all get lost in that. We forget, as I said, we look at sports and look at billionaires and millionaires. We don't look at the game and the beauty of it. We don't look at, she was reunited with the children. She's got 45 years of anger and pain and hurt, and she's easy to want to lash out, and she didn't. So much credit to her. And then the second thing I thought was really neat. So the kids sit down, they take a deep breath, and Dr. Phil says, anything you want to say? She says, looks at the kids and says, yes, I have 2 questions. Are you married? And her daughter says, yes. Well, I'm divorced. And the mom says, well, been there, done that. You have children? And of course she says yes and talks about that. Then she looks at her son, who at this point I think is in his 32, 33 years old, and says, do you have children? And he looks and says, no, I'm gay. And again, what I thought was so beautiful about that in the moment was he simply could have said, no, I don't have any children, and answered the question. We live in a society, unfortunately, that judges people still. It's getting less and less. We're becoming more and more tolerant. But here's a guy that inside of the first 15 seconds of seeing his mom, or maybe first minute and a half of seeing his mom, who I hadn't seen in 45 years, on national TV, didn't feel the need, pointed the thumb at himself, and was comfortable in his own skin, and comfortable with who he was, and essentially basically said to anybody listening, this is who I am. If you want to judge, that's on you. Go at it. But I'm good. I'm gay. And I thought that also, again, the little things. It wasn't the fact that he is gay. It's the fact that he said it. Again, he could have said it to her, behind the doors, 3 hours from now, 8 hours from now. It wasn't like he was waving a rainbow flag and carrying on, trying to carry the torch of all, gay people in the country. It was just a simple, no, I'm gay. I don't have any children. Which, of course, I understand gays can still have children these days through adoption. But I just thought it was so simple and a great lesson that I think this gentleman was just comfortable in his own skin. He didn't have to pretend. He didn't have to lie through omission. Not that it would have been lying, but he didn't have to not address it. It was a simple, matter-of-fact statement. Everybody accepted it and moved on. And again, I think that's a great credit to our country in terms of the tolerance we've come to. We are not where we were 30 years ago, and we're not where we were 80 years ago. That I have hope for our future generations that'll happen, so that we'll continue to be tolerant. So, anyway, love you guys. Just a couple observations, things I saw. Gonna be heading into work now. I'll keep you updated. Things are going well with me in the book. We'll be getting my computer back, I believe. Shared some of the children's stories with some people. I was appreciative of that feedback. Have a great day. Love you all. Talk to you soon.